I still remember the exact moment everything inside me broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, like something snapping that can never be repaired again. It happened at my sister's wedding, in front of 200 people, when they asked my 2-year-old daughter to leave. And the worst part, nobody stopped it. Not my parents, not my family, not a single person. They actually laughed. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't create a scene. I simply looked at my daughter, picked her up, and walked out of that place while silently deciding that my family was no longer my family. But I'm getting ahead of myself, because to understand why that moment destroyed everything, you need to understand what came before it. I grew up believing family was everything. My name is Daniel. I'm 34 now, and I come from what people would call a respectable American family. Not rich, not poor, just the kind that looks perfect from the outside. Sunday dinners, holiday gatherings, matching smiles and Christmas photos. My sister Melissa was always the golden one. Smart, beautiful, confident. The kind of daughter my parents never had to worry about. And me? I was the easy one. The quiet one. The one who didn't cause problems. Because I learned early that causing problems meant being ignored. If Melissa succeeded, my achievements were background noise. If she struggled, the entire house stopped breathing for her. That was just how things were. And I accepted it. Because what else does a child do? When I met my wife, Laura, everything changed. She wasn't part of my family's world. She came from a completely different background, smaller family, but warmer, louder, real in a way mine never was. We built a life slowly. No shortcuts. No help. Just two people trying to create something stable in a world that didn't always feel stable. And then our daughter was born. Emma. Even writing her name now makes my chest tighten. She was everything to me. She still is. A bright, curious, innocent little girl who believed everyone loved her because, well, she loved everyone. She would wave at strangers in grocery stores, hug people she'd just met, call everyone friend. She didn't know yet that not everyone deserves that kind of love. I wish I could say I protected her from that truth early. I didn't, because I believed family would never be the ones to teach her otherwise. When Melissa announced her wedding, it felt like the first real family celebration in years. She was marrying Ryan, a corporate lawyer with a polished smile and even more polished life. Everything about the wedding screamed perfection: lake venue, expensive floral arrangements, guest list full of important names. And for once, I thought maybe we would all just be happy. When Melissa called me personally, she sounded unusually warm. Daniel, I want Emma there. I really do. She's my niece. It wouldn't feel right without her. I remember smiling while holding Emma in my arms. You sure? She's only 2. She's family, she said. Of course she's invited. That was the exact sentence that would later destroy everything. Because I believed her, the weeks before the wedding were normal. Or what I thought was normal. Emma was excited because she heard the word wedding and decided it meant princess party. We bought her a tiny light blue dress. She twirled in it every time she looked in the mirror. Laura kept saying, "She's going to steal the show." I laughed. I wish I could go back to that version of me, the one who still believed nothing could go wrong. The wedding day arrived like something out of a magazine. A massive lakeside venue. White chairs lined perfectly. Soft music floating through the air. Guests dressed like they had stepped out of luxury ads. Emma held my hand tightly as we walked in. She looked so small in that environment, but so happy. "Daddy, is Aunt Melissa a princess?" she asked. "She's something like that," I smiled. We were seated in the third row, family section. Emma sat between me and Laura, swinging her legs, looking around with wide eyes like the world had opened into something magical. And for a while, it really did feel magical. The ceremony began. People stood. Music played. Everything flowed perfectly. Then Melissa appeared. And I remember thinking, she looked happy. Truly happy. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. Because happiness in my family always comes with conditions. Halfway through the ceremony, I noticed movement beside us. Melissa's maid of honor, her closest friend, walking toward our row. At first, I thought nothing of it. Until she stopped in front of us. She leaned down and whispered something that didn't make sense at first. Melissa would like the child removed from the ceremony. I blinked. What? She didn't even look uncomfortable saying it. There's a childcare area in the back. The bride wants the ceremony adults only from this point forward. My wife stiffened immediately. That's not what we were told, Laura whispered. I looked at Melissa standing at the altar. She wasn't looking away. She was looking directly at us, waiting, like she had already decided this moment. I stood slightly, trying to keep my voice low. She's 2 years old. She's not disrupting anything. She's sitting quietly. The maid of honor didn't even flinch. These are the bride's instructions. Then tell the bride to come speak to me. A pause. Then, if you don't cooperate, security will escort you out. That word hit harder than it should have. Security. At a family wedding. For a toddler. I looked around slowly. People were watching. Some curious. Some amused. Some already whispering. And then I saw my parents. Smiling. Not confused. Not concerned. Smiling. That's when something inside me started to shift. Not explode. Shift. Like a door quietly locking shut. I looked down at Emma. She was holding her little doll, watching everything like it was some strange adult game she didn't understand. "Daddy," she whispered, "are we leaving?" Laura's hand was shaking. I realized something in that moment. This wasn't confusion. This was intentional. Melissa didn't forget Emma was invited. She changed her mind in the middle of the ceremony and chose humiliation instead of conversation. I picked Emma up, slowly, carefully, like I was afraid the moment would break her. "It's okay," I said softly. "We're going." Emma wrapped her arms around my neck immediately, not scared, just trusting. That trust almost destroyed me more than anything else. We stepped into the aisle and started walking. 200 people watched us leave. Not a single voice stopped us. Not a single hand reached out. No one said, "This is wrong." Only silence. And somewhere in that silence, I heard my mother laugh. That sound followed me all the way out. Not loud, just enough. A small laugh like this was entertaining. Like my daughter being removed from a wedding was some awkward family moment instead of what it really was. Humiliation. Outside, the air felt different. Heavier. Real. I placed Emma gently into her car seat. She was still quiet. Still trusting. Laura finally spoke. "What just happened?" I didn't answer immediately, because I needed to be very careful about what I said next. Not emotional. Not impulsive. Clear. "I think," I said slowly, "we just found out who our family really is." That night, after Emma fell asleep, I sat in my living room staring at nothing. Laura thought I was going to break down, argue, scream, call everyone. But I didn't, because something had already shifted inside me at that wedding. Something irreversible. I opened my laptop and started writing. Not messages, not complaints. A plan, a record, a decision forming in real time. Because I realized something very clearly that night. What happened wasn't an accident. It was a message. And now I had to decide how to respond. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw it again. My daughter standing there holding my hand, not understanding why adults who were supposed to love her were suddenly treating her like she didn't belong. And the worst part wasn't even the removal. It was the laughter. That sound from my mother, light, careless, like it was all just an uncomfortable joke instead of a child being humiliated in front of strangers. By morning, something inside me had stopped waiting for an explanation. I wasn't confused anymore. I was done. The first thing I did was not call anyone. Not my sister, not my parents, not anyone in that room who watched it happen. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table while Emma ate her cereal, swinging her legs like nothing in the world could ever touch her innocence. Laura watched me carefully. "You've been quiet all morning," she said. "I'm making sure I stay calm," I replied. She paused. "Calm for what?" "For what I'm about to do," I said. I started with small things first. Shared accounts we had with my parents gone. Emergency contact lists updated. Family group chats left without a word. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was methodical. Like closing doors one by one in a house that no longer felt safe. Laura finally stopped me midway. "Are you sure you want to go this far?" I looked at her. "They didn't just disrespect me," I said quietly. "They humiliated our daughter in front of everyone. And they laughed." That was the only answer I had. By midday, the phone started ringing. My sister first, then my father, then my mother. Each call louder than the last, each message more defensive. It was a misunderstanding. You're destroying the family over one moment. She's too young to even remember. But that was exactly the problem. They thought her age made it acceptable, as if innocence cancels harm. When I finally answered my mother's call, her voice was already defensive. "You're taking this too far," she said immediately. It was a wedding. Emotions were high. "She's two," I interrupted. A pause. She was sitting quietly. She wasn't causing trouble. "And you laughed when she was removed." "We didn't laugh at her. You laughed while she was being taken away," I said. "Do you understand what that feels like for a child? Even if she doesn't fully understand it yet, she felt it." Silence. Then a softer tone. "You're being dramatic." That word. Dramatic. Like my daughter's dignity was an inconvenience. That's when I realized something important. They weren't going to understand. Not now. Maybe not ever. The call ended with nothing resolved. But I was already past needing resolution, because clarity had replaced confusion. And clarity is dangerous. It removes hesitation. 2 days later, my brother showed up at my house, uninvited, standing on my doorstep like nothing had changed. "Come on," he said. "You can't really be cutting everyone off over this." It was awkward, sure, but it wasn't malicious. I stared at him for a long moment. "You were there," I said quietly. He shifted uncomfortably. "You saw her being removed." He sighed. "I didn't know what to do." "That's the point," I said. "You didn't do anything." And that silence between us said everything that needed to be said. Over the next week, the pressure increased. Messages from cousins, calls from aunts and uncles, even people I barely spoke to suddenly had opinions about how I should let it go. But none of them asked the only question that mattered. "How is Emma?" Not one. That told me everything. Then came the moment I didn't expect. My wife's mother called, and instead of excuses, she said something I will never forget. "I saw what happened at that wedding," she said softly, "and I want you to know you did the right thing." I didn't speak, because I didn't trust my voice yet. She continued, "A child should never feel unwanted by family. Never. And anyone who laughed at that moment failed her." For the first time since the wedding, I felt something shift inside me that wasn't anger. It was relief. Real relief. Weeks passed. The noise slowly faded. No more daily calls. No more arguments. Just silence from one side of my life and peace on the other. And in that silence, something surprising happened. Emma started laughing more. Really laughing. Not the polite kind children give when they're unsure. The real kind. The safe kind. One evening, she climbed onto my lap while I was sitting on the couch. "Daddy," she said. "Yeah?" She smiled. "I like our house." My throat tightened instantly. "Yeah," I asked softly. "Yeah," she nodded. "Everyone here is nice." And in that moment, I understood something I had been too emotional to see before. She didn't lose a family. She was saved from one. Months later, I ran into someone who had attended the wedding. They hesitated before speaking. "Your sister still talks about that day," they said. I looked at them. "She says she didn't mean it like that." I nodded slowly. "Intent doesn't erase impact," I said, and I walked away. Because that was the truth I finally accepted. You don't measure family by blood. You measure it by behavior. By who protects a child when it matters most, and by who laughs when they shouldn't. That wedding didn't just end a ceremony. It ended an illusion I had carried my entire life, and in its place, I built something smaller, quieter, safer, but real. And if I had to choose again, I wouldn't hesitate. Not for a second. Because the day they humiliated my daughter, I didn't lose my family. I discovered I never truly had one that deserved her in the first place.